Professor Cynthia Barrow-Giles, who led the supervisory CARICOM team to Guyana last year, on Thursday said she believes that some of the judgments from the Appellate Court raise questions as to whether the courts are as independent as they ought to be. Professor Barrow-Giles, the senior lecturer in the Department of Government at the University of the West Indies, was at the time discussing a research paper, The Judiciary and the 2020 Guyana Elections, which is part of the Faculty of Law Cave Hill Campus Working Paper Series. Her colleague, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, believes the concern is proven in the many rulings from the Court of Appeal, which overturned High Court rulings, later being corrected by the Caribbean Court of Justice.
You know, back in Barbados, having been in Guyana for the elections, and I looking at the court hearings, especially when, seeing what Roxane George had to say in relation to the cases that came before her, and then seeing the Courts of Appeal also addressing the same matter. And quite frankly, that is why there's so much work to be done. There's a lot of things out there that we need as academics to interrogate. But some of the decisions, I'm not a lawyer, but some of the judgments that came out of the Court of Appeal are highly questionable. But there might be a connection. I don't want to impute anybody, but certainly there might be a connection, with the appointment process and some of the judgments. But certainly in relation to the Caribbean, one of the things that we have to focus on is the need to ensure that we really have a complete separation of power in the region. I think that was one of the issues that clearly comes out in relation to some of the things that we saw coming out of the Guyanese courts in particular.
Yearwood, on the other hand, believes that the courts were used for policy making and political battles. He questioned whether politicians took the rulings seriously and genuinely. He reasoned that the court has a role to play in ensuring procedural fairness in the electoral process, but noted that there is a thin line between ensuring that fairness and becoming arbitrators.
And if you recognize from these rulings, it seems often that the High Court and the Caribbean Court of Justice were on similar wavelengths and similar thought and reasoning. It was often the Court of Appeal where the judgment seems to go awry.
That's the difference.
And then the CCJ correcting the Court of Appeal to say, actually, what the High Court originally ruled as the exclusive court to deal with electoral matters was right. So we often saw that happening.
Meanwhile, Professor Barrow-Giles said she was particularly concerned about the manner in which political parties deliberately resorted to the courts to resolve the political issue. Guyana's Court of Appeal had delivered several rulings, starting just after the December 2018 no-confidence vote and up to the days before the delayed August 2, 2020 declaration, which called into question the preparation of the elections report by the Chief Elections Officer. The professor also recognized the work of Chief Justice Acting Roxane George and fully endorsed a statement that read, "There was one silver lining behind the entire cloud of the Guyana 2020 election. Roxane George as an exemplar of probity, integrity, and independence. Without her, I shudder to think where that saga would have ended." She described the 2020 general and regional elections in Guyana as one of the most delayed elections globally in terms of declaring a winner.